Welcome back to The Missing Link. If you're ready for a steady flow of new high-quality LinkedIn connections, it starts today. An important note I want to make is that the moment you start requesting connections, your sequence timeline begins. So you're going to want to be prepared to handle the flow of follow-on nurturing. That means you either need to be committed to maintaining a cadence with these video lessons that keeps you ahead of your outreach, or you need to complete the rest of the program videos and homework before getting started. But if you start connecting with prospects and then you head out for a 3-month motorcycle tour of Nepal, things are going to get wonky real quick. Okay, let's do this. So we're going to go back to our search results. I'm going to do this in Sales Navigator, but the process is mostly identical using the standard LinkedIn interface. So you should have no trouble mimicking my moves if you prefer to work on that side. Now, with a lot of personas, I can easily tell from the search results page whether or not the contact is indeed the right fit. For example, Chief Marketing Officers or CMOs of credit unions in the US. I can see all of those details in the search results very easily. With other personas, it can be a bit trickier. An example here might be, say, Directors of Operations at B2B law firms in New York. I can certainly see the geography listed here, as well as the job title. But because LinkedIn's categories don't differentiate between B2B and B2C law firms, my only option is to perform some quick research on each profile. In some cases, you can mouse over the company name and find the guidance you need right there. But if it's still unclear, you can use your new best friend, RCOINT, that's right-click and open a new tab, to pull up the full profile. So I'll right-click on the icon right here, open a new tab, and up pops our company profile. You can then typically find the confirmation you need here, but if not, many will have a direct link to the company website where you can find answers you need. I find this model to be a bit more time-consuming, but it will depend on your persona's company type. A second option is to just copy the company name, note the city, and then do a quick Google search. The search results page will often give you the information you need, but if not, you can click through to the appropriate page on the website and research the nature of the company. Scenarios like this are very common, and although they do slow things down a bit, you're still going to be able to connect with a considerable volume of target prospects if your persona fits into such a situation. Within the search results, you're going to have the ability to connect with all allowed prospects by clicking the ellipse and then connect. Now here's where LinkedIn's product design makes things a bit inconvenient for us. Your inbox or message history with any LinkedIn connection is saved to whichever interface you send from. So either your LinkedIn inbox or your Sales Navigator inbox. That's not ideal because we'd prefer to have a unified inbox. As I mentioned in the last lesson, it also creates an issue if we cancel our Sales Navigator subscription because any message history in Sales Navigator would be lost. This isn't a big issue for our standard message sequence because we'll be tracking that progress in our CRM. But you will lose any custom conversations that you have with connections in the Sales Navigator inbox. To deal with this, we typically recommend a slightly more complex but more reliable process for connecting and conversing. That is that you send all messages and invitations to connect from the standard LinkedIn interface. Let's run through that process. If you're searching in Sales Navigator, from the search results page, you'll want to go to each prospect's profile. You can do that just by clicking on their name or clicking the ellipse and then view profile, but there's a downside to doing it that way. To return to the search results, you then have to click the back button in your browser, and that will re-render the search results starting at the top of the page. Ugh. So, instead of just clicking through to the profile, RCOINT, right-click and open a new tab to open the member's profile in Sales Navigator. However, we need to access the profile in LinkedIn, not in Sales Navigator, so that our message history all lives in the LinkedIn inbox regardless of what we do in the future with our Sales Navigator subscription. So, we click on the ellipsis and then view on linkedin.com. From there, you should be able to either click on a connect button or in some cases, more, and then connect under that menu. So I'll click on connect, add a note, and then we're going to paste one of our invitation to connect scripts. The keyboard shortcut to paste is Control-V or Command-V on Macs. Do not forget to replace the template fields like prospect name with actual details, or you'll make it into my vlog's next blooper reel. Notice that I can see her name right back here. Click send invitation, and then we're done. Obviously, keeping one script in your clipboard so that you can easily paste dozens or hundreds of times in one session is a huge time saver. That also means that it's best to run separate searches for your various invitation to connect scripts so that you can keep pasting one script over and over without switching back and forth between variations. As you go through this process, you'll notice that different prospects have different options available to you. They're too numerous and complex to easily communicate to you in this lesson, but know a few things. First, as I mentioned before, these variations will primarily be based on your LinkedIn account type, each prospect's LinkedIn account type, your degrees of separation, and the prospect's privacy settings. Second, you should have so many allowed profiles to connect with that it won't be worth your time to worry about the others. I recommend that you simply skip them and keep your momentum. Our recommendation, although it's not a requirement, is that you keep track of the number of times you send each invitation to connect script variation. You can do this in any number of ways, but our favorite is to just keep a pen and paper next to your computer, pick one of your scripts, and then each time you send an invitation to connect with that script, create a tick mark on the paper. You know that old school way where you draw 4 parallel lines and then a 5th diagonal? When you're done with an outreach session, just count up all the marks and add the total to the existing number in your blueprint. Okay, so how many connection requests should you send out in a typical session? Again, it depends on the size of your prospect pool, how much time you have in a day, and how clearly your persona translates to a LinkedIn search. If you have thousands or tens of thousands of quality search results, you can effectively invite for hours and get out hundreds in a session. Realistically, even sending 50 to 100 each session is going to build up your network very quickly. But again, if you have a more limited pool, that rate will change week by week as you deplete the list. In very clean search results, like those credit union CMOs, you may need about 30 seconds per invitation. For more ambiguous personas in search results, like those B2B law firms, 1 minute per invitation is a better estimate. So we typically see somewhere between 30 to 60 requests per hour if you work without interruption. Another important note, not all connect buttons are created equal. On most, if not all, suggested connections pages, clicking the connect button will simply send a request to the user. You're not given an opportunity to enter your custom connection script. This is pretty much standard in the mobile app, by the way. In those cases, be sure to RCOINT, right-click and open a new tab, and open the full profile so that you can connect the right way. All right, let's talk about what to do when your new connection notifications start rolling in. Depending on your setup, you may get those notifications as an email, as a browser pop-up notification, or as an alert on your mobile device. First of all, it's not important, and in my opinion, not even ideal, to pounce on those new connections with your thank you message. Because of the steps you need to take after getting a new connection, I recommend processing thank you messages once per day. Here are the steps you'll follow for each new connection. 1. Celebrate. Even though these are connections, not customers yet, getting acceptances shows that your program is working so far. Booyah! 2. Create the contact in your CRM. Let's walk through that process now. So we'll come into HubSpot. I'm going to go into Contacts, click on Contacts, and we'll have an orange button here for Create Contact. I'll click on that, and we have to start by putting in an email address. So I'm going to do carol@missinglink.works. And then we'll be able to populate the remainder of these fields. So I can put in as much information as I want about job title, company name, etc. For lifecycle stage, we're going to choose marketing qualified leads. We consider all of our connections on LinkedIn marketing qualified leads by default. We'll talk about the other lifecycle stages later. Last LinkedIn script. It's going to be the connection thank you because that's the one we're going to send. Last warm call script does not yet apply because we're not in the warm call sequence yet. Last script date will be today, so I can simply click on the orange date for today. LinkedIn profile link, we want to copy from their LinkedIn profile. So for example, we'll come over to David's profile and I'm going to copy the URL from the web address here, Control C or Command C on Mac, We'll come back to the CRM. We're going to paste that field. Then I want the LinkedIn Messenger link. This is going to be a shortcut directly to my message string with this contact. Now, the easiest way to get that web address is to click on messaging, then click on that user, and then come up and copy. We'll paste that into the Messenger link area, and then complete the rest of our form with any of the other information we want. In this case, I'm going to leave these empty. We'll then create contact, and everything is set up. Now, if you're wondering where you get the email address, once you have a connection, it's typically going to be available right here under the contact info link. You can copy and paste it from that pop-up. Your next step for simple accepts is to just copy, paste, and send your thank you message back to the contact. So I'll come into our blueprint, copy our thank you, come back to that message, and paste it in. Remembering, of course, to replace any variable fields with actual information. For accepts with a reply, respond appropriately. This is a pretty common and occasionally exciting scenario. If it's just a friendly, glad to connect from the connection, you have an extra friendly prospect in your sequence, and you should reply with an equally personal thank you instead of using the standard script. If the connection thank you interaction goes beyond simple pleasantries, you may need to handle the connection differently. We'll cover these scenarios in the next lesson. The last thing you'll want to do is note the success for the corresponding script in your blueprint. Because your original invitation to connect will become the first entry in your message history with that connection, you can look it up and increment your blueprint stat accordingly. Remember that your message history, including the original invite, will be recorded either in your LinkedIn account or your Sales Navigator account, depending on where you sent the original connection request. Once you've used an invitation to connect script variation at least 100 times and waited for at least a week to record the success rate, you should have a pretty good idea of performance. The more times you use a script, the more you can trust the resulting metrics. Think of it this way. Having a 50% success rate on a script after sending it only 4 times isn't going to be a very reliable number, since that percentage could change quite a bit once you've used it, say, 200 times. But seeing a 35% success rate after sending 2,000 invitations would be a much more reliable indication of performance for that message. Obviously, once you have sufficient volume to trust your numbers, you can evaluate things like retiring one message because it significantly underperforms another. In such a case, you might then create 1 or 2 variations of the high performer and start testing those to see if you can grow the performance even more. This is what we call conversion optimization. Congratulations, you're now a digital marketer. Let's talk success rates now. What's a good acceptance rate for your invitations to connect? First, remember that some personas and people are quicker to respond to invitations than others. Even I will sometimes let a request sit in my inbox for a month or 2 before responding. So don't freak out if you have a 5% success rate on the first day. Expect that rate to climb over the course of a week, and then more slowly after that as more and more people dig into their LinkedIn accounts to respond to your invitation. When our team does outreach for our clients, we typically see 25% as a minimum acceptance rate, 45% as an average, and 75% as an occasional high. It depends on the persona, the number of shared contacts you have, how compelling your profile is, and of course, how good your script is. You're also likely to see your success rate increase over time as you fill your network with more connections within your persona's industry. This is mostly due to the fact that you'll see more and more mutual connections in your outreach, and that dynamic is a game changer for your acceptance rate. You can typically be successful with anything north of a 10% success rate, but if you're under 15% a week after sending your invitations, reshare your scripts and performance metrics in the group comments so we can help you optimize. That's it for this lesson. Are you excited yet? I'm totally psyched for you now that you're off and running. Be sure to keep us posted on progress in the comments. I'll see you in the next lesson where we're going to talk about how to nurture all these new connections.